Fractional Report is back. Luca Nation, welcome to the Fractional Report before opening bell, brought to you by Collectable. Gonna have an amazing episode here, so like, share, subscribe. You guys have been commenting a lot more recently. We appreciate that. First episode with the NFL season underway. We'll talk a little bit about how we both feel Mahomes' 5 touchdowns. It felt like a walkthrough in kind of exhibition game for him. How that's going to affect his prices. Cage will talk a little bit about liquidity. He was trying to trade this week. So a lot of good stuff. Anything top of mind? We did a Whatnot show earlier today. Talked about fantasy and props. We did a Whatnot PWCC weekly auction show. Golden auctions ended last night. SCP auctions ended on Friday, so there were some sales there. Anything stick out to you? Anything catch your eye? Anything you want to start today's show off with, Gage? Other than how much of a doofus your co-host is?
No, not at all. I mean, it's the Fractional Report brought to you by Collectable before the opening bell. I'll tell you what sticks out to me, guys. It is yet another week, and our portfolio has not changed. And I really was expecting to come to you guys, this week and say, hey, I sold some stuff, and would have been nice to to say that, and unfortunately it didn't happen, not for lack of trying, and let's go through that. I did list some of our portfolio items for sale at not at bid price. I don't want to take a bath on it, but at a at an ask, right? Lower ask than what the asks were. Obviously, trying to squeeze that bid and ask spread. And I didn't do it Friday at like 3:00. I did it earlier in the week on several of our items, and not a single share sold. I'm sure if I would have dropped it down enough, I could have obtained some liquidity, while trading, but I didn't, because I don't feel like just, selling at a huge loss for no reason. But let me explain. We've done this show now almost 60 times. Maybe this might even, we're approaching 60 times doing the show. And I'll tell you, over the last month,
you guys could think of us as your test dummies. You're welcome.
Well, after depositing and actually, trying to, pay attention, watching the bid and ask, watching the spreads, watching the liquidity or lack thereof, I think I've learned more in the last, 4 weeks than I did in the previous 50.
Lesson there for you guys, being a practitioner.
Well, that definitely is. But more importantly, we would come on here and I would tell you, hey, I know something to get into. And if you would have gotten in this last week because you saw the comps, blah, blah, there's something I wanted to get into. I definitely wanted to get into. Can you do me a favor and can you pull up the Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant basket? All right. And, if you can, that would be great. If not, let's see if you can pull that up. That would be cool. Let's look at the chart on it. And basically what I'm talking about, guys, is the 1982 Wrestling All-Star set. It is a cool set, different color borders. The Hogan and the Andre that are in this basket are both BGS 9.5s, Min Gems. They're both yellow borders. I believe they're both the highest graded. I don't think there are PSA 10s of either of these. I'm not 100% sure of that. I guess I could look that up also, pop-wise. I know there was a Ric Flair 10. I owned a Ric Flair 10 at one point in time, but the price on these has just gone up tremendously. And just so that everybody knows, just a little funny anecdote while Andrew's pulling this, the Andre and the Hogan up, I paid $2,551 for my Ric Flair PSA 10, one of 6 on the popper pool, but I think there's only 5 because there was a problem with one of the slabs. So I think there's only 5 actually PSA 10s. I sold it for more than twice what I paid to Gary V. But it's worth significantly more than that now. I mean, a Flair 10, if a Hogan is worth this, the Flair 10, I don't even know where it's worth. Probably 10 times what I sold it for. So it's pretty crazy, to see the price appreciation on these. I guess you can't pull it up.
It's up. Okay. It takes a little bit to load right in the beginning. Oh, this is cool. They have a little Hulk versus Andre the Giant clip. Okay, here it is. Navigate.
Give us a shot to share. I can't see.
You can't see?
No, currently not sharing. But it's okay. It was sharing for a second, but now it's not.
There we go.
Boom. So there's the card, 82 All-Star, really cool, Hulk Hogan. Take a look at the chart on this and, the market cap. I think it's in the 30s total for the two of them. for both Hogan and there's Andre next to it, right? So we're looking at a card here. I think it was last I looked about 33. You'll see it when you get there, right? About 33 on the mark gap, and it's down. I mean, there's something at 36. So 36.6 for the two of them combined. It's a basket of both of those cards, right?
Yep.
36.6. I think when it IPO'd, it was like 110. Which you look at this and you're like, wow, it's down so much. 110. That's crazy. You want to tell folks what just the Hogan in BGS 9 sold for in golden this past week? So for like 50, like almost $50,000, I think. Let's take a look. I think it was over 50.
Gorgeous.
It was like $52,000.
Yeah, gorgeous copy.
It's the second Hogan card. I think a Cosmo sold for over $50,000 recently too. So if a 9.5, and obviously all 9.5s are not the same. There are min gems, there are true gems, there are gem plus. But if a Hogan itself sold for $50,000, then obviously a basket that has a Hogan and an Andre in both 9.5 sitting at $36,006 looks like it would move. Now I'm going to tell you, this week I wanted to get into this. I wanted to buy into this basket because I knew the Hogan was selling, and I know that it's been a while since a high grade Hogan has come up for auction, and I knew it was going to sell for a lot. So I put a bunch of my items up for to sell, so I can get some liquidity on the platform, and not a single share sold. So I was not able to get into this. I wish I did, because I'm sure Monday morning, when people realize that this particular item just sold half of the basket for 50,000 plus, and the basket sitting at 36, I would imagine there's going to be some interest in this Hogan and Andre basket. It's one of those weird ones that doesn't come up for sale that often, so that's the fun stuff on that one. I mean, it's an interesting item. Can you pull up another one for me? Can you pull up the LeBron James Ultimate Collection? Now, this one here happens to be, when we go through our 3 up, 3 down, happens to be one card that is in the top 3 decliners. LeBron Ultimate Collection Auto Rookie BGS 9.5, numbered out of 250, was down 31% this week. It was very close to the also 31% down of the Jackie Robinson signed 49 Bowman. But take a look at this one. What's the market value on this one now? It's a 9.5 with a 10 auto. Nice card. Only 250. Rookie auto of LeBron.
68,000.
Okay, so that's at $68,000. It's a BGS 9.5 with
about
the 10
33% of what it IPO'd at 180,000 cage.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a high price. It's definitely in there. A PSA 9. Right, so not the same card, right? Not the same card exactly. PSA 9 versus BGS 9.5. You can, draw your own comparison there. But a PSA 9 sold this past weekend, September 10th, for $55,200. Okay, 55.2. So I mean, it's interesting because it looks like a BGS 9.5, sold in August. For, if you look at Card Ladder, for $96,000, a BGS 9.5 with a 10 auto. So that's August 18th. So interesting stuff, man. It really is the difference between a BGS 9.5 and a PSA 9. I don't know if that's just this particular card. I don't know if it didn't have an auto grade.
I think we're seeing a bit of a reversal in LeBron cards. I think you're going to start seeing money that was either made or held in these modern quarterbacks start to move towards NBA, and invariably LeBron will be one of the first 3 buys. And sometimes PSA 9 moves first, then BGS 9.5 moves, but they usually move in tandem eventually. They don't move perfectly.
The PSA 9 is really low. $55,000. Yeah, at 55.2. I mean, it doesn't have an auto grade, so that's part of it. But by comparison, last year, obviously, it's tough to compare things to last year. But in March of 2021, a BGS 9 with a 10 auto sold for $75,000. In March of last year, that's the last sale for that. A BGS 9.5 with a 10 sold like 3 weeks ago for $96,000. This PSA 9 sold for $55,000. I mean, it is. I don't want to call it an outlier, but it's a bit of an outlier. In May of this year, a PSA 10 sold for $276,000. That's a lot of money. So really what it comes down to is that 9.5. What's the premium on a 9? Is this 9 just one that got lost in the shuffle? in the September 10th auction, but it's a sale from this weekend. It's something that people who are holders of this item, this BGS 95, should know, because prior to that sale, the last BGS 95 sold on August 18th for $96,000, making this card in the 60s, right, just around 70, look like a little bit of a good deal.
Discount. Let me ask you.
Yeah, shoot.
You've been buying LeBron. You're not an auto guy, so put that aside. And I love you took me to school today with that Magic Johnson side by side, PSA 10 versus PSA 10 with an auto grade. You could tell that story. What would you get? Would you wait for the 10 on this? Would you go for a 9, or would you go for a BGS 9.5?
Honestly, what I would love for you to do, because you're better at this than I am, is take a look at the PSA 9 that sold. It is on Card Ladder. Well, they just have a regular picture. It's a golden sale, right? What I would check is, does it look like if you sent it back to PSA, they would grade the auto and would it grade a 10? Because believe it or not, I think that's a big difference on a card like this. All the BGS stuff that we've been talking about.
This is not a 10 auto.
So there you go.
It's smudged. You could see it's a little bit white right there.
So that may be the reason why. Remember, guys, not every one of these cards is the same, right? So we've talked about this a million times on our show. There's a difference between the headline of the article and the facts that are actually written in the article. So maybe the reason why this one sold, because it doesn't have an auto grade, and maybe the reason why it doesn't auto grade is because people realized that it wasn't going to, sell. It wasn't going to actually be a 10 auto, which of course impacts the price. So that's a couple of comps, from the weekend. The Hogan's an interesting one. I have a question for you. All right,
please. I'm ready to answer.
A fun question, right?
Those are my favorite.
Two things. A Nike.
He's not going to actually ask it, guys.
It is. Here's the question.
Say a statement.
So the overall question, then I'll give you two examples. The question is, does a similar piece of game used or event used, or it's golf. What do you call it? What do you call it? It's an event, right?
Chip shot used.
If it's a used item for someone,
play it as it lies.
Does that impact other used items for that player when there's a headline, or is it just usually very item specific? And I'll give two examples. So a Tiger Woods used 05 Masters and British Open victories golf bag that he used. He also used it at that year's U.S. Open PGA Championship. It looks like all four. So for $391,000, does that have an impact on the Tiger Woods putter that Collectable has? And likewise, a Kobe game-worn jersey that is 08-09, matched to 25 games, including 5 playoff games, sold for $450,000. Does that impact the other items of game-worn Kobe that are on Collectable? I'm muted.
Yes, and no. Oh, he muted me. I'm in trouble, guys. Yes and no. I love this guy. You're the best, man. You're the best co-host. I think if I've learned anything from having some DM conversations with people who are in the memorabilia space, learning their rules, trying to understand their world, I think the event or the game that something is photo matched to, even though you can't really put a price tag on it, is what moves things more than just the headline of game used or event used or whatever it is, right? Because Tiger won a lot, but invariably, right, some majors hold a little bit more love or passion or feeling than others. Kobe won a lot. He played a lot. But some events have more of a meaning, like his last game jersey, hypothetically, or his 81-point jersey has a little bit of a different vibe. So I would look less at just like kind of headline sales, and with game worn or event game used or whatever, I would look at what was that event from and was it photo matched. You're on mute, so you're just talking to yourself now.
There you go. So, it's a good analysis. It's a very good analysis.
Is that a fair analysis?
I guess it's very good. I think the items speak for themselves. The individual items have their own significance. And a bag that was used at 4 majors in the same year has some legitimate, especially because one has some legitimate stuff.
Let's even give a very interesting example or anecdote. Just a few months ago, Jim Irsay bought this belt that was $6 million, right? That belt was actually not even at the event, but the story behind it, the provenance of the Rumble in the Jungle and everything that was going on, people remember that, right? People buy on emotion and then justify it with logic. when you buy something, there has to be some emotional connection to it. That belt is an amazing example of the event. I think is what's more important than the actual game worn, etc.
There you go. I mean, I think that's probably very, very accurate.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, listen. Here's another question to lead you down, and we can talk about how these things performed this past week, and then where they go. The performance on court, performance on the field. Is it going to translate this week? So, we in our portfolio did buy a Patrick Mahomes card, right? It was not up this week, but a Mahomes 17 Immaculate Platinum logo RPA numbered 1/1 was up this week. It was not in the top 3, but it was definitely up about 35% this week. He had a great game. Looks like he doesn't miss anyone. Looks like it doesn't matter who he's throwing it to. He's not going to miss a beat, and he's going to be there, and a potential Super Bowl, favorite, all that fun stuff.
Run your route. Andy Reid will tell you exactly where to run. Mahomes will throw it exactly where you need to be. Catch the ball and run. We overrate wide receivers. Although Jamar Chase is fantastic.
You know how Ohtani is like a two-way player? The Chiefs today, if you watch the game, one of the more impressive things I've seen, their place kicker was injured, Harrison Butker.
Smacked
and
it.
He hurt himself on a kickoff, and their starting safety, his name is Reed, right? He kicked for them. So after they scored their second touchdown, Harrison Butker's ankle was so mashed up that he couldn't come out and kick the ball. So their safety, who was going to stay out there after the kick and did to play safety, when he kicked, and he kicked off so well it went through the uprights. He kicked a field goal.
I'm gonna pee in your Cheerios or in your Cheerios. Yeah. He then missed the field goal after that to the right.
He kicked an extra point. No,
he did.
So yeah, he made an extra point.
Okay, respect.
Butker came back and was in there, afterwards and kicked a field goal, and I'm sure he'll be fine. But think about that. Think about roster implications. That's a cool thing. Give Andy Reid, give the coaching staff some credit having a guy like that around. Pocket knife type. Soccer player. I'm sure. When he was younger. One other one I kind of want to pull out there, just because it's somebody who he doesn't get any love, but Mike Trout was on a hell of a home run streak. I didn't watch today to see if he continued it. He might not have, but he had 5 games in a row. What was it? 6 games in a row with a home run. Let's see how many he has. There is a pretty cool card on Collectable, the Mike Trout 2011 Finest Superfractor Auto 1/1.
Trout didn't play today.
PSA authenticated. That's weird. Did he sit out, or they just didn't have a game? That would be weird.
He sat out. He didn't play.
Okay. It was down 22% this week on Fractional, while he's in the midst of, I think setting a franchise record for consecutive games with a home run. Second in the American League with, I think he hit his 34th or 35th home run. 7 years in his career with over 30 home runs. He's just one of those guys that, you take a season like this for granted, especially since he's only played 99 games. And maybe it's because he has only played 99 games and everybody else has played 130. Maybe it's because you just get used to him not being there because he's always going to have some sort of a nagging injury that we were robbed of the greatness that he could have been. But take a look at that card. Mike Trout, 2011. Yeah.
I've been meaning to ask you, this is probably the good time. So I saw an amazing thread, and it was name your top 10 best baseball players of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that Mickey Mantle was actually not that good of a baseball player. He wasn't a top 10. Would you disagree? Agree? And what's your list?
So where is that list?
This was just here's how I learn. I like to go into different Facebook groups or different comments of respected content creators and see what people are saying. So it's just a Facebook group thread.
Okay. So what I would say is interesting is anybody who puts a top 10 list together that doesn't have Mantle is an idiot. But remember, baseball has been played for a very, very, very long time. So there's a lot of players in it with many different eras, many different generations of players. And
was Willie Mays better than Mantle?
Even basketball with 75 years. Yes, I would say Willie Mays is the best. You could have your top 5 is going to be some combination of Babe Ruth because of, I'd say he's number 1, hitting, pitching, as a hitter, a 342 hitter with, a million home runs when no one else hit home runs. As a pitcher, he won almost 100 games and had a 2.2 ERA. Also played right field, played left field. I mean, just an amazing guy. Amazing player, baseball player. Mays might be second. You remember he had, a little bit of time in the Negro Leagues as well. It came up with the Giants in 51. 660 home runs, 1,900 and change RBIs, played center field, played a real shallow center field at the Polo Grounds. Just might be as great as he was offensively, might be even better defense. Hank Aaron, he's got to be in there also just because of longevity, just because he did it so well for so long. Correct. Ty Cobb, which now we're talking about somebody who's 100 and something years ago, right? I mean, Cobb played at the turn of the century, right? Started playing, I think, 1955.
Anybody from not when you were born, but when I was born. Anybody from my age?
Well, we'll get there. Ken Griffey Jr. is outside the top 10, but I don't think he makes the top 10. I think he's in the top 15, and I'll explain to you why. Right? So Ted Williams.
Stay with us, guys. There's a reason for this.
Remember, this top 10, a lot of these are fungible, right? It depends what you're going for because, Ted Williams, having him at number 5, the guy never won a championship, but we were robbed of what he could have done. He batted 400 one season. I think his lifetime average was 344, like a crazy batting average. And I think he was the best hitter who ever lived. And that pains me as a Yankee fan to say. Yes, as a hitter, sure. Now, you have Ruth. I put Gehrig right in there. Now, some people could put him, a little higher or whatever. I put him in there. It's sort of like where do you put Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, right? It's, those kind of things.
Okay.
What's he 340 hitter, first baseman, didn't play so long. I mean, he played like 15 seasons, which I guess is long enough, but obviously, he played every game, 2,130 consecutive games. He was in there, potentially baseball's best RBI guy. He had 1,995 RBIs, which ranks 7th all time, even though his career was cut short, right? I mean, like real crazy, crazy numbers. Number 7 is where I put our friend Mickey Mantle. Number 7. Okay. Now, obviously, there's some flexibility here. Some people put him above Gehrig, and you'll hear who have 8, 9. I mean, Mantle played for a long time. Very different, financial structure then. I mean, they had to work. They had to do their own stuff. You know what I mean? So he played from 51 to 68. And at the end of his career, he wasn't hitting like he was in the beginning. So and he's probably, if he were around today and you could interview him, probably pissed off about this, but his career average fell below 300. He ended up being a 298 hitter, which I'm sure he wasn't thrilled about, right?
That's annoying.
536 home runs, 1,509 ribbies. What's he known for? He was in the center of baseball. The Yankees ruled the baseball world, and he was the face of the Yankees, right? He had power from both sides of the plate, was a switch hitter, right? Allegedly hit a 565-foot home run, also had speed, that rare combination of just power from both sides and being able to won Triple Crown in 56, won 3 MVP awards. He probably should have and could have won a few more. He led the American League 9 times in offensive WAR. 9 times. He hit 18 home runs in the World Series alone. 18 World Series home runs.
How is that possible?
Overall, the World Series he played in, which he played a lot.
Oh, and all the World Series. Okay. I was
Let's see somebody break the record of 18 World Series home runs. You got to get there, and then you got to perform when you're there, right? My favorite thing about Mantle is he was somebody who you could root for, somebody who answered the questions. He hit home runs. He was known as a home run hitter, and they asked him, hey, do you actually go up there trying to hit home runs? His answer was, sure, every time. Like, of course he wants to hit a home run. That was different for that era. Believe it or not, steroids,
because that was the contact era. That was like get on base.
I put Barry Bonds in the top 10. He's somewhere in the 8. Walter Johnson, for me, as a starting pitcher with 417 wins, gets in the top 10. Stan Musial, who you'll make fun of because you don't even know who that guy is, but all-time great Cardinal who played for 22 or 23 seasons and still batted .331 for his career, is an amazing guy. I put, as again, pains me as a Yankee, but I've already got 3 Yankees in the top 10. Pedro Martinez. It is amazing what that guy did. His win-loss record. He won 219 games and only lost 100 with an ERA of under 3. He had a 2.93 ERA. Just an amazing and impressive pitcher. Honus Wagner, I put in there at 12, which he's more than just a card. People don't realize that he was actually a very good player, a 328 hitter overall. Cool nickname, Flying Dutchman. Best shortstop who ever lived. Sorry, Derek Jeter, but Honus Wagner was actually the better shortstop. 13, maybe I put Ken Griffey Jr. Who else? More pitchers. Greg Maddux maybe at 14. 15, believe it or not, I'm putting Mike Trout.
Okay.
So there you go.
So that was amazing. That was Beethoven conducting a symphony. Were you prepared for that question, Gage?
No.
So the reason I ask,
Joe DiMaggio may be in there.
The reason
Definitely
I
in the top
asked
20.
that
Go ahead, sorry.
Is what even brought Collectable and us together? Well, there was this Baby Ruth sale. I got hungry. I was salivating.
Baby Ruth.
And Cage said, no, it's not that kind of Baby Ruth sale. It's the Baltimore News. It's this really wrinkle-dinky up. It's like a playing card.
Wrinkle-dinky.
But it sold 1%, all that stuff. Yeah. Guys, you know was first on that list or second that hasn't had the run-up that Mantle has? It's Ruth. So I'm sitting here thinking, the guy is in culture. The great Bambino, the Sultan of SWAT, Babe Ruth, the guy's going nowhere. He's in movies. You know that iconic face. If you're looking for some Mantle type of plays, why not look at Ruth, who hasn't run up the same way as Mantle? So just coming in with that framework or logic, maybe, Cage, you could tell me which card. Would you invest in the Gaudi 33 SGC 8, which is at a market cap of $190,000? Would you go Baltimore News SGC 3, which, interestingly, IPO'd for $7 million, 1% sold, but that card has stayed consistent. It hasn't gone down. It's actually at 8.7 now. And we know when Ezra came on that there were actually private buyers who were interested in that card at that evaluation. So where would you play it if you're buying a Babe Ruth card?
Well, listen, if you can get a piece of that, the problem, of course, is that this is so much retained. But what I love Collectable for is being able to buy pieces of items you could never otherwise get. Both of those routes, the SGC 8, I mean, that's a house in some part of America. And the Ruth Baltimore News is a house in almost every part of America, right? I mean, $8 million, it's a block in some parts of America. I'd probably go with the Baltimore News one, because as we start to see headlines of the most expensive cards, you see a $12.6 million SGC 9.5 Mantle. You saw the $5 million PSA 9 Mantle. You saw the Honus Wagner 2 and 3 selling for $7 million. Everybody tries to one-up everybody else. And, when these things are in private collections, yes, this basically is still in a private collection, but at least it's there. People know where it is. They know how to find it. Like, somebody could say, you know what? If that SGC 9.5 Mantle is worth 12.6, then this Baltimore News Ruth, which there's a handful of copies of, is worth 18. I'm going to make an 18 offer.
Guys, it's not that they might. That's what actually a part of the hobby is built on. It's who is bigger, who is stronger, who has a better collection, who is right, who is wrong. That competitive nature all the way through, it plays at the top too. So when you see a Mantle SGC 9.5 sells for 12.5 million, 12.6 million, the question isn't what Mantles are going to move next. What's a comp? Oh, a little Baby Ruth bar. And that would be somewhere I would look at, because you look at anybody's list, you could argue like 3 through 15, but everyone's going to put Ruth in the top 3. And if you talk about culture, Ruth's not going anywhere. We don't know Mikan. We'll never forget Ruth.
So, I own several Ruth cards, nothing like what is on the platform. And yeah, I like where you're going with it. I'm going to make fun of you because it's not shiny and it's not gold. It's Babe Ruth and it's ugly and it's old and it's who the hell wants it. But
yeah, but he's so cute. He's got these huge little fat cheeks. He's so low. He's a big doll. He's a big grown-up doll kid fat.
I mean, listen, couple comps on there, lots of fun. Josh Allen is the one we can use, right? Because the question that I asked was, are we going to see a change? Well, Josh Allen played on Thursday, which meant that people could trade his card on Friday, right? So that's a nice indicator. And Josh Allen, their opening night will against the Rams, really didn't have any short-term impact on Friday on the 18 Gold Prism BGS 9.5, which was flat this week. It's already up 8.5% this month. But a PSA 10 sold for $186,000 at PWCC last month. You would have to decide, is the premium for a PSA 10 on a gold card out of 10 186 versus the trading value, the market cap right now of the BGS 9.5 that's on Collectable, which is trading at 114,000. Is there room for the 9.5 to appreciate and get closer to 186? Maybe they both move up. Is that the real price difference now between a BGS 9.5 and a PSA 10, especially in a gold card where there's 10 of them? But we didn't see much movement on Friday.
I don't know that market well enough. It's a weird market. That gold rookie of these quarterbacks, or you could even throw Ja and Giannis into that. It's a difficult market. You need to understand how golds move because they're not. I don't know. I really don't know, Cage. You tell me. You've never bought a gold card in your life of a modern player.
But nice little caveat at the end there.
well, you bought Tim Duncan for 1/10th, 1/15th of that. So I don't know. Like, what does that card go
and
for?
And Isaiah Thomas for 100th of it.
Right. Like, what is that? What's your upside potential? Forget it's Josh Allen or whatever. Like, where do you expect that card to go? Even if he wins the Super Bowl, we know cards drop after the first Super Bowl. We've already seen that. So, like, I don't know what the upside to downside ratio on that is. And every single game, it's like a potential injury could happen. Like, that's a real life thing. So, I don't know. It feels too much downside with a kind of a ceiling on the upside, at least short term.
I love it. What team is Donovan Mitchell on?
On the Cavs. I think it's going to help Garland more than Mitchell.
So, and there's you jump to the answer of the question I asked. I maybe 2 or 3 months ago, 2 months ago, offseason NBA talked about how Mitchell to the Knicks was rumored and how there is an item of Donovan Mitchell's on Collectable platform, and it's a 17 National Treasures RPA BGS 9.5 out of 99. Trading at 14,131. And I said, all right, you know what? This might be an item to look at because, if he goes to the Knicks, blah, blah, blah. It was flat this week, down 5% in the past month. And it was near some of the recent comps, but then there was a sale on eBay for like $9,000. We've been told that eBay announced there were a ton of an increase in search for cards related to Donovan Mitchell, which you'd understand. He's going to a new team, people looking for stuff. Sure. Is this card just not one that people want? Is it one that, Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks would have been a different story because he was the guy there, whereas opposed to going to a team like Cleveland, they have an Evan Mobley and they have a Darius Garland, and Mitchell is just going to be one of 3 pieces, whereas here in New York, he would have been the offensive focal point and, could have scored 30 points a game. What are your thoughts?
Well, I would go, and this is what I'm actually doing. I'm searching high to low, and I'm going to look at the Donovan Mitchell, the one that was sold on eBay, to see why it was sold for $9,000. So that's the first thing I do, because we don't understand comps well enough yet. Comps are a new thing, and comps have only come with the transparency of technology. So you go back even 5 years, nobody really used comps this way. It's a relatively new thing. So I dig into why a comp became a comp. First thing, I'll share my screen. I'll walk you guys through kind of what I saw. I already saw a poorly taken photo. So right off the back cage, for a card of this value, you would expect a nicer photo. That's number one. It's a nice card. Nice subgrades too.
I mean, listen, the 2 prior to this eBay one sold August 18th for 14.4 and July 21st for 14.4. And then this outlier is at 9, which, I mean, can't really call it an outlier. In July, one sold for 88.88. This is just an interesting one. I mean, I'm a little surprised of the lack of movement on it. That said, part of the reason
fairly priced is kind of what I...
And there you go. And there you go. So
I wouldn't say it's worth 9. I would just say it's someone who's held it for some time. He's like, I want to get out of it. I want to use that money. And sometimes you have sales like that, but I think that's a pretty fairly comped card.
Listen, here's a fun thing, and I want to make sure everybody understands this, right? The market cap on Collectable is, I used to say share price, everybody want to use market cap. I don't want to say it's misleading, but it's slightly misleading. And let me explain what I'm talking about, okay? It's not like we give you a market cap and you can come in and buy that card for that price right now, right? It's undervalued, sure, but that just means that is the valuation of the card based on the last share traded, not what you can come in and get it for. And there's probably very few shares available at that market cap, if any, which is why it got scooped up. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of a card that looks like a quote-unquote bargain on Collectable, but it's one where, it doesn't mean the market cap is the value of this card or what you actually buy it for. So the 1980 Topps Ricky Henderson PSA 10 rookie, right? It's a card that, Andrew would say PSA does a very good job of population control, right? That there should be more 10s, but that they don't give it more 10s. The last sale of this was in April. It was $120,000. Obviously, the market's different than it was in April. This particular card is not one that's susceptible to market swings the same way modern players would be. The pop hasn't grown on it at all. It's it's a rare card of an all-time great. This card on Collectable is trading at $88,595. It's a 26% discount over the last comp, down 6.72% this week. And this one on Rally, that's at $81,000, even less than this. Again, if you were able to click a button and buy shares of this at 88 right now, clearly that's a bargain compared to the last comp, right? Two sides to that equation. One, that last comp, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what the card would sell for now if it's sold. But two, you can't buy this card for that price. You can't, because you could buy certain shares at that price or close to it, depending upon what it opens for and the bids and the asks on Monday. But I just want to make sure everybody, this was something that we just kind of glossed over almost for the first year. Oh, wow, that's a bargain. It's trading at 88. The last sale was 120. Okay, trading at 88 doesn't mean you can buy a lot of that card at that 88 number. I just want to make sure that we're clearer on that. And if anybody has any questions on that, I can explain it. Send me a message or reach out to us on Discord. On the Collectable Discord, there's a Luca Tiger, question and answer. I'm always in there. I can answer any questions that are in there. Or you can come into our Discord. You can find me, Cage Lawyer, or I'm Andrew Goldberg, or Luca Tiger LeBron Podcast on Instagram, and ask away. You want to do a quick, summary run through of the numbers, the top three increases and decliners, and then maybe the IPOs, and then we can let these people get on with their trading day?
Sure. Top three gainers is Tiger Woods, full ticket PSA 6 is his first PGA event. Gary Carter, 75 Topps OPC rookie PSA 10 basket, both up 50%. Mm-hmm. And then the Kobe Bryant, Gabe Warren signed Jordan French blue sneakers up 50%. Those are on this list all the time. I just think there's a lot of I don't think there's a lot of asks, so the price just fluctuates all over the place. Jackie Robinson signed 49 Bowman PSA DNA 8, down 30%. LeBron James Ultimate, KG talked about that, down 30. And then Acuna, I think people see the writing on the wall with him, at least for this season, but he will be in the playoffs. So his stuff is down 26%. It's a BGS 10 basket times 4 cards in that basket.
Yep.
I do want to talk about Alcaraz, guys. Actually, I want to ask you what you think about Alcaraz.
I think you were the first person I ever heard mention him, and anybody who says otherwise and tries to take credit for it, I'm going to fight him. Now everybody's going to come out of the woodwork and be like, oh, I was talking about Alcaraz. Oh, here at 137, we wrote an article about him in April. All right, Andrew was on him before that.
Well, let's think about it, right? Like, let's talk about their cards, right? Net Pro release. Mm-hmm. It's not ripped. What would you urge people who saw him win the U.S. Open and want to get into his cards?
Wait.
Okay.
There's a very limited supply. What would I tell people to do? Go on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you want to go and look, wherever you get your information about cards, and ask people who have collected wrestling cards for a little while, what happened when the Prism Wrestling release came out. Okay? People went nuts for it because it was a release that came out with some new guys, some new rookies, some Braun Breaker, and Gable Stevenson. And the prices were insane because there wasn't a lot of stuff. And then all of a sudden, they started printing more. And there was Select Wrestling, and there was Revolution Wrestling, and the same thing with UFC. And all the people who thought, oh, wow, I got to pay $1 million here. I got to pay a lot of money for this. More and more stuff came out. Now, I've talked about this phenomenon all the time. UFC cards came out in 2009 from Topps, and everything was expensive. And then Topps made another release, another release, another release, another release. And all of a sudden, you were able to get more cards of the guy. And Andrew, we've talked about this week. All that we do, this entire hobby, most asset classes come down to supply and demand. It's the same thing as this. The demand is at a fever pitch because Mr. Alcaraz has just won the U.S. Open at 19 years of age, even though he did not have to go through a very tough gauntlet to get there. It was sort of like Giannis winning the championship. He didn't really have to beat anyone so great on his way there. Mr. Djokovic was not playing. Mr. Federer was not playing. Now, if this kid stays healthy for the next 10 years, he's going to be Go ahead.
How many tennis collectors do you guys know? Tennis card, like, it's the supply demand. You could have, like, a cool comp is Pete Sampras cards because Pete Sampras has a Net Pro Game Worn Patch Auto. So that card of Alcaraz right now just sold for $9,000. Do you know how much the Pete Sampras card is?
900.
Yeah,
and that's a great comp. Because this guy would sign on the dotted line to be Pete Sampras right now to have the confidence that Sampras had. I mean, forget about it, 100%. And who knows if he even stays healthy. But here's the flip side to that. What didn't happen with Sampras, that will happen with him. There's a limited supply. 80% of the supply right now are being bought by flippers who do not care to hold that person's card anyway, right? They're not actual fans. It's fake demand. It's demand to try to sell it to someone else for more money. So that is when you have a real problem. That's what imploded the wrestling Prism cards. It's what imploded a lot of stuff. It's what will happen to F1. It already has started happening to F1. It's what's going to happen to all these things where
it's a lot of the participants of the F1.
So same stuff.
And here's the thing. So I'm just clear. I like flippers. I am a flipper. I want them to win. I really do. I just don't want our community to be their exit liquidity.
It is on steroids version of the Pujols and Serena. They're at the tail end of their career, but they're getting that last couple of minutes of fame here, and their demand has gone up. Same thing with Mr. Alcaraz right now. He's not on the tail end of his career, at the very beginning of his career. Very little supply of his stuff, and everybody's going, wow, I got to look if there's an Alcaraz card, right? When you should have been buying.
He's fantastic. He's fantastic. Like, let's not confuse that. He's a showman. He knows how to work the crowd. He's a generational talent. His grandpa was a player. His dad was a player. Like, he's groomed from the youngest age. Cage took a picture with his coach. That guy
I like the coaches. I'm a big fan of the coaches.
The guy's as real as it gets. It's tennis. And the collector base for tennis cards, even for like a Serena, is very small. So it's just.
I'm also good luck, guys. August 29th of 2008 was the last time I went to the U.S. Open. And I saw Roger Federer play in an early round, and he won the U.S. Open that year. This year, I went to an earlier round. I saw Carlos Alcaraz play in person, and he won. If I go and I watch you play on the main court, you're probably going to win the U.S. Open. I'm 2 for 2.
I would be looking at Fed cards, man. Fed cards are like, you get PSA 10s of him for like $50-$60. Fed is revered if you're looking at tennis. Any final words before we hit it?
Final words are IPOs. Mr. Carlton Fisk, iconic, waves at fair ball from the 75 World Series with a market cap of 280 is still in the exclusive in-app early access. There are IPO shares remaining of the 1981 Wayne Gretzky Sports Illustrated newsstand first cover. There's 33% of that remaining. The Jordan 85 Nike Air Jordan 1 dead stock player sample is about 3/4 of that left. And the 2017 Tatum Panini Flawless Gold RPA BGS 95 of the 10, a market cap of $56,000. About 32% of that remaining. Those are the little IPO actions that's there. And yeah, enjoy. Happy trading.
So thank you all for listening to another episode of Lucas, Tigers, and Bronzo My. I wanted to tell you about a new service that we have starting as of today, and I'm really, really excited to bring it to you guys. So as a part of our partnership with SGC, we got 50 free submissions every single month, and many of you have taken advantage of that. And it's amazing that we could have the opportunity to 650 episodes, 675 episodes in, to go ahead and give back to our community. as people were sending those cards in, they asked, can we send 5, 10, 20 more cards to you guys? We'll pay for it, but we wanted them graded with SGC. You guys know SGC is turning cards around in 13 to 14 business days, have incredible customer service, and their secondary market values are going up day after day after day. And that's exciting for the hobby and exciting for the grading landscape. So we didn't want to just rush into it. We wanted to do it right. And what we did was I relocated here to Boca Raton, Florida. I opened up a P.O. box maybe 5 minutes away from SGC, and I will be hand delivering and hand picking up the cards. So you don't have to worry about anyone else touching your cards. It will be me, and I will update you every step of the way. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to personally pick up the cards from a P.O. box, prep them, new card saver, new penny sleeve, and deliver them to SGC every single Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Well, it lets the stragglers over the weekend come back through on Monday and gives me a day to prep, and it basically gives SGC the entire week to work on grading those cards. Once your cards pop, only then at the end of the process will you be paying for the service. It's $25 per card, simple as that, and the turnaround times have never been faster. We're hearing right now 13, 14, less than 20 business days. So there it is. 9170 Glades Road, number 135 is the P.O. Box in Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. 9170 Glades Road, number 135, Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. Of course, you could shoot me an email or shoot me a text anytime, and I'm always available. Many of you already have my email. It's iamandrewgoldberg@gmail.com. or my cell phone number, 215-519-9154. Reach out with any questions. I could walk you through the process. I've hopped on the call with quite a few of you, and I'm happy to do that. Love you, Luca Nation.